Hey, welcome back to the Urban Monk. I'm happy to be here with somebody who's actually run the miles. I've been doing this show for a while. We blended this show with the Health Bridge, and I've had pretty much every health expert worth talking to, not everyone, but a lot of them on the show. And, we're getting top-down dissemination of information from people, usually ivory towers, New York Times best-selling authors who, have written a gajillion books on health. And so now we have a very interesting grassroots approach to this today. Amy Kurtz was sick. And she was kind of famously sick, and she wasn't doing well. And so this is her journey back from sick to wellness, having worked with a lot of the top experts out there in the field. But this is now a patient-centered conversation from someone who has been there, felt that, been kind of on rock bottom, and worked their way back up. So Amy, hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing the work, because, it's really easy to listen to the traditional doctors and just take the drugs and not feel well and just keep not feeling well and wondering why, it's not working. Or at some point you got to take matters into your own hands. So give us a little bit of your backstory. Like, how did you were sick? How sick? What was the deal?
Well, I was very healthy, or so I thought, as a child. And then when I was 14, I came home from a dance class, and I was a very active kid, and I felt this shooting pain go up my spine, and I'd never felt anything like it, and it never really went away. So it was from that moment on that I went on this quest with my parents to try to figure out what was causing the pain. And I went to a lot of the best specialists. My father's a doctor, and we went to every resource that we could find, and nobody could identify the root cause of the pain. And so I was put on a lot of medication to try to treat the symptom. And it did for a while, but heavy duty medication certainly makes you identify as sick or unwell. And when I was 25, I went abroad, and I picked up a parasite infection, and it sort of tipped everything totally out of balance for me. So later I found out that the cause of my pain was celiac disease, and it had just presented itself in my body as an inflammatory response to the gluten I was eating. But it wore my body down over so much time that every system just pretty much malfunctioned, and it was kind of like a system down. And I had to really go back to basics and learn all of these things that I had never known to be true about medicine or healing or anything. And I was very, very sick, and I had no other choice but to take my health into my own hands. And I figured out myself how to get well and meet the right kinds of people that could help me, and how to really totally change my lifestyle so that everything was centered around my well-being and healing.
That's tough. So you have obviously a lot of friends in high places in medicine. So daddy knew some people, you went to everyone, you went to all the specialists, they ran all their tests. I'm assuming you gave a lot of blood, you got poked and prodded, and they couldn't figure this out for years. Eventually, how did you come down with the diagnosis after all that kind of pain you went through?
So when I was younger, we went to specialists, and in the 90s, nobody really was talking, at least where I'm from, nobody was talking about it could be food related. So I went through all the tests then. And then when I went abroad and I got very sick, I came home, and I think this is what you're referring to is at that point. Yeah. Was that the question?
Well, the celiac.
Okay. So ask me the question one more time.
Sure.
So I understand.
So when you finally came to a diagnosis, it took a while to get there, right? And so
Yes.
they couldn't find it, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because there were so many things that weren't working properly, my thyroid wasn't working properly, my gastric system totally shut down, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't keep food down. It was a very severe reaction to everything that was happening. And eventually I started to seek out doctors that took a functional medicine approach and looked at the whole body as many moving systems and thought of nutrition as medicine, and food is medicine. And when I finally got myself to those doctors is when I started to realize that food can really change the biology in your body. And they tested me and I came back positive for celiac.
So you saw my friend Mark Hyman, who, and was he your personal physician?
He is.
He still is. He still is.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So, and he's was his practice up in the Berkshires? Like he's
yes
up there.
So I had been struggling for several years, and I'd always heard his name. I'd heard him speak at the nutrition school that I went to before any of this happened. And I always knew that I would know who he was, but I didn't know how, and I always respected his work. And when I was really desperate for answers, I asked somebody to do me a favor if they could get me in to see him because he wasn't taking people at the time. And I road tripped up to Lenox to see him. And that's when everything really started to turn around for me.
Got it. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was just up there, and we missed each other. But I was up at Kripalu. What a beautiful part of the world. Oh my goodness.
It's so beautiful.
It's really good. So you start seeing Mark, and he starts saying, "Okay, look, we got to change around your diet. This ain't going to happen overnight." So then, what happens? You go in. You're finally you have hope because there's someone who might be able to help you. But then, what steps start getting taken that start giving you a little bit more energy and making you feel better?
Well, what was nice is that Mark had been sick like I was when he was younger. And if in the foreword to my book, you'll read more about that. But so he was the first person that he literally drew a map of my body on a piece of paper and showed me all of the different systems and how they connect to each other. And until then, I didn't even know that that was a part of medicine or that that existed. And he started to explain to me that if all the different organisms in the body aren't working properly, that nothing else can really function. So he started to address my thyroid, and that's the master gland in the body. So if that's not working properly, nothing else really can. And so once we started to get that under control, that really helped. I totally revamped my diet. A lot for me in my healing journey has been self-care rituals and creating mindfulness practices for myself and really changing the way that I relate to myself and how I slow down and how I start my day and meditating and totally revamping the way that I saw well-being was very important to my healing.
What was your life like before? Like, what did you do for a career? Were you a student? What were you doing before you had to change everything?
I was a student for a while, and then I was an actress in New York City, and I was planning to move to LA right before I went abroad. And to supplement my acting career, I was a health coach. So I was starting to get into health and wellness before any of this happened. And ironically, now it's become totally my life's purpose. But I got my degree as a health coach, and I was doing that before. And now acting, I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. Why act when you could just, have an authentic message that, needs to be told? So
yes, and it really does.
Yeah. And someone else's script versus your own. Who needs it, right? You get right. Your own. Yeah. And so, okay, so you have this busy life. You have some busy life. You're doing your thing. Now, what does it look like? Because so many people can't envision what it looks like to change life in a way that would do what you got out of it, right? Like, okay, I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to do this. I mean, was it a total reset, or did they basically fall one domino at a time?
Up until this point, I had been a person that functioned in extremes. But for this, it really was one practice at a time. And I tried everything. I think you have to try everything. When you have a complex health situation, you have to be willing to try everything and see what works for you as an individual, because each person is completely different. And for me, I really did try everything. And then when something stuck and was really meaningful for me, or I could feel the profound impact that it had on my life and the way that I related to myself and the way that I lived, then I would incorporate it into a practice for myself. And now those are non-negotiables for me, and they're just the way that I live. So it's been a great journey. I mean, it was something that was deeply traumatic that I've made really deeply transformative. And that's why I wrote the book, was to share that process with people that really need it.
So you saw Gabby Bernstein, you saw Lena Brower, Chris Carr, Simone Joel Evans, you've seen Jessica Ortner, you've seen a number of people. What was this landscape like? I mean, you have a dream team here, right? And so did it take the whole village to do this? Like everyone kind of brought their own little piece to putting you back together?
Well, it's a little bit different because so what I've created in the book is called an A team, which is your go-to people, your doctors, the healers that help you, and your teachers that are really the parachute for which you set up your healing. And so that is Dr. Evans and Dr. Mullen and Dr. Hyman and several other people. And then there are what I call my favorites, which are thought leaders that changed the way that I thought about life and healing based on what I had read from them. And then I started studying their classes and taking their courses and reading their books. And then I also have the Glow Warriors, who are what I call the champions of the good life, who are women who have really tricky diagnosis and have learned to thrive through the experience rather than be sidelined by their diagnosis. And so all of those people have helped me in so many ways. Some of them I have seen in person, others I've just connected with them deeply through their words and the way that they see the world, and it's changed the way that I've thought. So it has had a huge imprint on me.
So you're reading a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a student. You have to be.
That's it.
To take care of yourself in this day and age, right?
That's it. Well, and there's just so much we don't know. And if you could take the leverage of someone's entire life experience in a book and download it and be able to use that to make your life better, it's kind of a no-brainer. But, it's just, I'm always aghast at how few people who are ailing pick up books and read about their conditions and things that would actually help them.
It's really, really true. And it was important to me when I wrote this book that it had a very specific, relatable tone, because I am the person that needed this book. And Chris Carr, for me, was the book that turned it all around for me and made me want to be a student again. There's a lot of things that come up when you're sick that make you just want to give up. And her book in particular was the one that sort of turned my light back on and made me realize that I could change the way that I saw a difficult situation and turn it around for myself. And after that, I've been reading and reading and reading. But there really is a point where it's sometimes the resources that you have out there aren't motivating or don't deeply move you enough to make a real change for yourself and to become your own health advocate and feel empowered. So for me, her book did that for me, and then I started becoming a student.
Yep. So you're young, and so hopefully you didn't have too many terrible habits going into this thing. But one of the problems I see, and maybe you did, but one of the problems I see is the inertia that comes from years and years, decades of bad habits that people have. And then they might read a Chris Carr and get really motivated for a minute, but then it's like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, and how am I not going to have the pumpkin pie, right? And then all of these kind of scripts and narratives and stories from the past kind of bog them down again. I mean, was it a quantum reboot for you? Did you have to basically fundamentally become a different person? And how did that look?
I don't think that you ever totally become a different person. You just become a different version of who you were, and you're smarter and wiser when you learn things that really move you. I don't think I became a different person. I just woke up and realized that my health was mine to take and change, and that I really could have the life and the wellness that I so deeply wanted if I started to see my situation differently, and if I started to approach what had felt overwhelming to me as something that I could really change. And I think when you get the first place to start is to realize that you really do have the power to change where you are, and you really do have the power to believe it can be completely different than it is for you. And when I really could grasp that mindset, everything started to change for me.
Right on. Yeah, it's a big deal. once you make that decision, you can't really go back. And if you go back, you know you're really screwing up. A lot of people I know in the space, people who've kind of healed to a certain degree and all of a sudden become kind of evangelists for health, still have a lot of health issues, but are still talking about health. How hard is it to walk the walk once, so it's like, you get carried into, say, this thing, and you get a good looking book out and you're probably out there promoting it and all these things. And then it's like, damn it, I didn't get enough sleep. Oh, I didn't get time for my meditation. I'm at, an Indianapolis airport and they don't have the food I can eat, right? So how hard is it to maintain all that while being a messenger for that? I see it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're human and it's in our DNA to not be perfect and to make mistakes and to have setbacks, and that's okay. For me, I do the best I can. I still have a couple chronic conditions, and I have days where I don't feel as great, and I have days where I might make a choice that isn't the most high vibrational choice for myself. But I think I'm just very clear on the fact that I'm here to help people who are really struggling. I mean, the disease rate is 1 in 2 Americans have at least one chronic health condition. And so I'm not hard on myself. If I want to indulge in something or I feel tired, I go back to the drawing board and get a great night's sleep or have a really nourishing meal. And I walk my talk because it works and because it's really, really worked for me. Yeah. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, there's no other way to roll. It's hard. I see a lot of people in the health space, compromise their health trying to go out there and advocate for health, and it's really hard to walk the walk, right? And we all face it, right? I'm out there making a movie about health while we have a baby at home a couple years ago, and I'm just like getting destroyed because I'm not sleeping. And so it's just, it's the reality of the situation. But especially with your, say, your diagnosis then and wherever you're at now, you don't really have that much room for error. Like, you start screwing around, you're gonna feel horrible pretty quickly, right? And so your health won't let you to a certain extent. I see a lot of people in our space get there, right? They'll kind of dip in and out of sickness while trying to advocate for health. And we're all human, right? We're all human, we're all trying. And so, the choices that you make, the people you surround yourself with, I think make a big difference. Where are you? Where do you live?
I live in New York.
You live in New York.
The city.
You're in the city, yeah. So
in the city.
Yeah, so you
have to take extra good care of yourself in New York City. Say well.
Well, I mean, listen, there's great pizza, there's great everything everywhere, right? And, it's nice to get out for drinks with friends. I mean, I love that town. And the last couple times I've been there, I've gone to some delightful restaurants that have had really good, organic, healthy food that has been, easy, right? New York's way easier to be healthy to a certain extent than Boise, right, where you may or may not have access to certain food choices. So it's hard. So for someone who right now is not feeling well and is a seeker and is trying to get the information that they need to kind of unlock and wants to get out of the funk that they're in, what would your message be to them?
I think that you have to try everything and know that there's always more to learn and that there's always a new way to see your situation, and that the first place to start is to start feeling empowered that you are in charge of your health and wellness, and that if you're not feeling fulfilled at a doctor, you have to go back and look at the list of what you need in a doctor, because just because somebody's the best doctor doesn't mean that they're the best doctor for you. And you have to start really getting in touch with yourself and your needs so that you create a healthcare system that works for you. And never stop learning and never stop looking for people who inspire you to think differently or think outside the box of what you know, because there's always more information. And fortunately, we're living in a world that is becoming very saturated in health and well-being. It's becoming more and more important as our world gets faster and faster. And it's there, it's at your fingertips. And luckily, I put everything you need to know in Kicking Sick so that you can learn from these amazing experts and healers and thought leaders about chronic conditions. So it's all, you can start here. You can start in my book. You can start really understanding that no matter what, when you think you've hit a roadblock, there's always further to go, and the situation can always be better than you think it can be. You need to start with the belief that it can be, and start to really sit with that and how you want to feel, and then find the people who can help you get there and support you.
Yeah, I mean,
but it starts with supporting yourself.
Well, that's it. That decision is huge. Now, you were fortunate enough to be able to get some referrals to Mark Hyman and all this, but for those who are seeking, there's the Institute for Functional Medicine has a practitioner database. So you just go to the Institute for Functional Medicine website and search for practitioners, zip code, geolocator. So there are highly qualified physicians who have studied good functional medicine all over the place, all over the world, right? I have an international audience, so I don't want to be US centric here. So you got to do a search, right? And just because they're certified by some board doesn't mean that they're the right person for you either. So, you still got to feel them out.
Totally. Yeah, you have to do the research, and you have to be in charge of those decisions for yourself. I mean, I went to 30 doctors before I was 30, and I went to some of the best specialists in the whole world. But just because they were the best specialist or named that doesn't mean that they were the right fit for me. And finding the right doctor is really finding the right partner in your healing journey. And it's really important that you find a good match for you. And it might take trying some people out. And I tried a lot of them out, so it's definitely doable. But you have to be willing to put in the work, because the payoff on the other side is always worth it.
Well, it's a hell of a lot more work being sick, right? And that's the problem.
Totally.
It is so much work having a chronic disease and just not having enough energy to want to do anything. So, it's a lot less work to search doctors and find solutions than it is to keep living that life. And that's really, look at you. Your skin's glowing, you're doing great, you've got enthusiasm, you're out there helping people, and, being the girl who was not feeling this way, I'm sure there were moments where you couldn't see this as a reality, as a possible future for you.
No, there were very real moments where I felt very isolated and frustrated and alone and sad, and I didn't know where to turn. And I knew that I didn't want my life to feel that way. And it was if I'm being totally honest, it was much easier for me to look for other people to make decisions for me, because the situation felt too overwhelming to me. And everything started to shift when I started caring about how I felt about the care I was getting and how I felt about the answers, and that I decided taking a pill for pain with no explanation for what it wasn't enough for me. And it starts there with you empowering yourself, that you know yourself better than anyone.
And there's an interesting gem in that, okay, so you had to decide that you were the person to do this for yourself, but then you curated your A-team and your list of people to then come in with the specialties and the educations that will help you implement a plan and kind of troubleshoot this. But you got out of the passenger seat, started driving, and then brought on experts to help you along, versus going to people asking them to tell you what to do.
Right. I had to show up for myself in a really real way before I started to find the right people and make really positive, long-lasting change.
Yeah. Awesome. The book is called Kicking Sick by Amy Kurtz. Gorgeous, good-looking book.
Thank you.
You've got you have recommendations, you got yoga poses, there's a lot of great stuff in there. And I think that this is wonderful. I like talking to real people who've run the miles and done it and can kind of talk about the journey on the other side. So thank you. Thank you for fighting through that and being the person you are now.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be with you and to be doing this show with you.
Thank you. Let me know what you think. This is Dr. Pedram Shojai, the Urban Monk. Check out theurbanmonk.com and check out her book. I'll see you next time.
Yay. Thank you.